Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by J Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show, right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And as always, so glad to have you along with us. It's been cold. I don't need to tell you that. It's been cold. Michigan's meteorologist Mark Torregrossa was on the show with me a few weeks ago, and he said, it's going to get cold. And it did. And as I look at the forecast, it's going to be cold for a while. Cold enough to make ice, that's for sure. Cold enough that my outdoor walks have been a little uncomfortable. In fact, they've morphed into indoor walks on the treadmill. Now, I don't like to walk indoors. I don't like to walk on the treadmill. The only saving grace is I got a big screen TV in front of me, so it helps the time go by faster. But I would really just assume be walking outside. But it's been kind of cold, kind of uncomfortable. But you, my friends, who are ice anglers, you're glad to see this. I get it. I appreciate this, and I wish you well on the ice. These days, I'm just not an ice angler. I used to be. When I was a kid, I used to ice fish on the smaller inland lakes, and that was an absolute riot. Years ago, I used to play around with ice fishing on Saginaw Bay, ice fishing for walleye, and that was an absolute riot as well. But an awful lot of work. And, I don't have a sled to get out there. I don't have a snowmobile. I don't have a quad. I don't have an Argo. I don't want a snowmobile. I don't want a quad. I don't want an Argo. It's just one more thing to take up space, one more thing to worry about, one more thing to screw around with. And at this point in my life, I am minimizing my things to worry about and to take care of, right? So I am picking my outdoor passions accordingly. Now, believe me, if I wanted to go out walleye fishing on Saginaw Bay, or if I wanted to do, honestly, any outdoor activity in Michigan, I know the people who can get me out there. I've got a list of people saying, anytime you want to go, give us a call. We will get you where you want to go. We will use your my buddy's equipment to get out there. But I'm just not much of an ice fisherman. I get the appeal. I do. I get the appeal of having that rod in your hand, looking down through the hole in the ice, watching the fish come in on your electronics, trying to entice them to bite. I get it. I do get the appeal. But it's just not for me anymore. But for those of you who do love ice fishing, congratulations. It looks like we're going to have the first real ice fishing season here in Michigan in many, many years, and I hope you enjoy it. Have a good time. Show me your pictures. Send me your pictures. This is something I haven't promoted much lately. I want to see your pictures of your outdoor passions and your outdoor pursuits. I want to share them with the world. If you don't mind sharing them, please send me an email to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And I will put them on my Facebook page and maybe my Instagram feed as well. If there is a kid in the outdoors, and that's really what we want to encourage, isn't it? You can include the hashtag ForwardFuelsTradition, or I will include the hashtag ForwardFuelsTradition. And the winner every month gets a $50 gift card to the Forward convenience stores. You can use it for gas or for supplies or whatever. So let's keep that in mind. Some other things to keep in mind. The drawing for the Pure Michigan Hunt winners, and there are 3 of them, is going to be January 24th. I hope you win, because I'm going to, okay? Because after I win, there are openings for 2 of you. So any 2 of you who want to win along with me, feel free to win. But they will be drawing my name. When they call the Pure Michigan Hunt winners, they're going to go Mike A, and they're going to give the last 4 digits of my phone number, and I will win my Pure Michigan Hunt, because I am going to win the Pure Michigan Hunt sometime while I'm still here on Earth. I did not win MUCC's big Super Bowl drawing. I thought, man, this would be the year to go, right? But Craig Coolidge did, so Craig, congrats to you. Have a great time. Thank you for supporting MUCC. I'm not going to lie, I wouldn't mind going to the Super Bowl this year, but I did that mainly to support MUCC and their efforts to defend and encourage people to get outdoors, defend conservation, hunting, fishing, shooting, and trapping, which is basically what this show is about. Promotion, encouraging, defending whenever I can, the outdoor lifestyle, the history and tradition of hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping in the great state of Michigan. Some other dates to keep in mind: January 20th. That's when tickets go on sale for our big Trinity Monitor Wild Game Dinner and Auction. I will post a link on the Facebook page for you to get your tickets then. That event is Saturday, March 1st. It's at the Great Hall in Midland. I think it's the 3rd year we've been in there. Really nice venue. January 20th. Again, tickets go on sale for the Trinity Monitor Wild Game Dinner and Auction. Looking down the road, Friday, July 25th. Put that on your calendar now. That's the 2nd annual Mike Avery Outdoors Charity Golf Outing in West Branch at the West Branch Country Club in beautiful Ogemaw County. Encourage you to join us there for that. So what else is going on? I got to be honest with you, the biggest topic of conversation I have heard in the state of Michigan this year among folks who love the outdoors is the uproar over the proposed solar farm project near Gaylord. People are not happy about this. Let me read an excerpt from a letter that DNR Director Scott Bowen sent to his DNR staff. It says the Michigan DNR manages 4.6 million of acres of public land for the benefit of all Michiganders. As the largest landowner in the state, the DNR can play a role in providing energy needed for our society. Recently, we have asked field staff in the Gaylord unit to review approximately 1,200 acres of state land for a potential solar development site. These lands were considered because there's a private solar project being built on adjacent lands, and additional acres could be added to that project. Some areas were identified. Let me rephrase that. A solar project being built on adjacent private lands, and additional acres could be added to that project. Some areas were identified as acceptable for solar development, but for some acres, land administering divisions were unable to reach a consensus. As director, I, Scott Bowen, have decided that about 420 acres of this land will be put forward for leasing. That has people very upset. For a number of reasons. So upset that some northern Michigan politicians want to see DNR Director Scott Bowen and some of his staff members fired. They want them gone. We will talk more about that later in the show. While we're talking about this, let me tell you who's coming up on this week's show. After the break, Devin LaFond talks about what he's calling a coyote attack on his daughter, his young daughter. She got out of the car. A coyote was waiting there for her and attacked her. Then Tom Campbell of Woods-n-Waternews. In our second hour, Justin Tomei of MUCC follows up on this concept of a proposed solar farm on state land near Gaylord. He's going to give us some insight into this situation. Then Dave Thomas of Bowhunter Planet talks about the state of archery today. Now, I bring that up at this time of year because right now is the ATA, the Archery Trade Association show. Years ago, I always used to go to the show every year and look forward to it. But these days, I don't think it's relevant because we can learn everything that's going on in archery online through press releases, news releases ahead of time. I want to get Dave's perspective on this. Then Chad Fedewa from the DNR with a wrap-up of this past deer season. I realize deer season is still going on in some places, but basically deer season is finally over. And then our Ask Avery segment this week, Brad Dupuie, Mr. Angler Quest, gives us an update of what's going on there. I did a Wednesday night live this past week in Novi at the Ultimate Fishing Show at the Suburban Collection Showplace with Brad Dupuie, showcasing his boats. You can see that on my Facebook page and YouTube channel as well. And in hour number 3, it's Beagles and Bunnies with Corky Legue. Is there any bigger outdoor tradition in Michigan than rabbit hunting with beagles? We'll be talking with Corky about that, and then we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. Again, my name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. There's a podcast version of the Outdoor Magazine radio show. I also have a website. It is MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I am active on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, a little bit on Twitter. I've looked at TikTok. I've actually posted a couple of videos. I don't think that's my thing. But just do a search for Mike Avery or Mike Avery Outdoors, and you will find me. We'll take a break. When we come back, Devin LaFond tells the story of his young daughter being attacked by a coyote. That's right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK. That's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in Ludington on News 97 and 98.7 WLDN. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Newberry on WNBY 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by VersaSkins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. Why buy a bunch of different sets of expensive hunting clothes when you can buy one good quality, warm, wind-resistant, water-resistant set and then snap on and zip on an outer shell of a different camo pattern in less than a minute? Well, certainly less than 2 minutes, but I've done it in less than a minute. It's a great, great idea. Michigan-based, family-owned. If you are looking for big sizes, I'm talking 4, 5, 6X, the sizes that are really hard to find, VersaSkins has you covered, literally. If you're looking for a jacket for a saddle hunting, for whitetails or out of a saddle tree stand, VersaSkins has you there as well. Check them out online a couple of places. Go to the website versaskins.com. That's versaskins.com. Or you can find them on Amazon. Go to amazon.com, do a search for VersaSkins brand, and you can find them there as well. VersaSkins, just change your skin for the season you're in. How cool is that? Want to talk now with a guy who I have talked with here on the show before. His name is Devin LaFond. Now, Devin is an avid houndsman. He's an avid hunter, and we may or may not have a chance to revisit the problems he's had in the past. But this time around, I want to follow up on something that I saw online, and I got a message from Devin. He said it is indeed true, that his young daughter was attacked by a coyote. Now, rather than let me try to explain this, why don't we just bring Devin on the phone line now? Devin, welcome back to the show. How have you been?
Good. How have you been?
Good. How's your daughter, first of all?
She's doing well. She just got her last rabies shot yesterday.
Oh, I've heard that's a very painful process.
Well, for a 3, almost 4-year-old, it's very painful.
Tell me, for almost 4 years old, tell me what happened, Devin. First of all, what part of the state was this in?
This was down by Alpena, a little town called Glenny.
Oh, sure.
Northeast.
Yeah.
Lower.
You're a Youper, though, right? You're a Youper.
Yeah, I live up by Marquette.
Okay, so you're downstate visiting for Christmas or whatever.
Yeah, we come down Christmas Eve. It was about 4:30 when I pulled into my parents' driveway. And I get out of the car, talking to my daughter, not paying any attention. You know, you're at Grandma's house. So we
Yeah.
get her out of the car seat, and my grandma is actually standing in a big picture window, you know, smiling, waving, doing everything grandmas do. And Ava just takes off running up to the front door. We've done this 100 times, you know, nothing new. And so I put my head back in the car, and I'm grabbing bags and whatever, and I hear a commotion, and I look up, and I see Ava laying in the snow. There's 2 vehicles, one on each side, and that's all I can see is Ava and my grandma. But my grandma is screaming and banging on the window like Ava's hurt, you know. I think nothing of it because grandma's overreact and kids fall in the snow, right?
Yeah.
So I start just kind of walking up there, don't think nothing of it, and my mom comes running out of the house, and you can just see panic. And like I said, I'm walking between 2 cars, so I don't see much. My mom grabs Ava, and at this point I'm, you know, a couple feet from her, and I look to the right, and here's a coyote just standing there, just maybe 5 to 10 feet away from Ava. So as my mom is grabbing Ava and turning, she's yelling coyote and pointing, and she's running back towards the house. So I turn around, I have a CPL, and I run back to my car, and I grab my pistol. It's about 15 yards each way. And I run all the way back up to the front of the vehicles, and this coyote is still standing there. Like it's not even phased. So I pull up on him, and there's a propane tank directly behind him. So I can't shoot. So I'm kind of like stuck here. What do I do, right? And all this is just seconds. So I take a step off to the right, and I'm able to shoot at the coyote without hitting anything behind it. And I hit the coyote I got a 9mm. I hit him, and you can tell that he's hit. He just kind of turns and just trots. He's not even in a full like sprint or anything like that. And so I just start shooting behind him, hoping that one of the shells hit him. But there's blood immediately, and so once the coyote's gone, I run into the house to make sure Ava's okay. Make sure, you know, I had no idea what truly happened at that point.
Sure.
So once I figure out Ava's okay, per se, she had one puncture right to her thigh. My dad and we start tracking the coyote. And my mom's on the phone with the ER trying to figure out what we got to do. So we track this coyote for a good, I don't know, half mile, I'd say, and is running to a family friend towards his house. So I call him up and said, get ready, there's a coyote running through your backyard. And I don't know, maybe 3 minutes later, I hear a shotgun go off. I was like, awesome, you know, he shot it. Well, he missed, and him and a bunch of his friends and family help us start tracking this coyote. I go back to Ava and take her to the ER with my mom. And kids and shots don't mix, but kids and rabies shots definitely don't mix.
So the coyote actually did bite her?
Yes, it bit her right in her right leg, right in the thigh.
But she's okay now. I mean, other than having to go
Yep.
through the rabies shots, which is just terrible.
Yeah, I mean, you get paper cuts usually worse than what she actually got, thankfully. I mean, it could have been far much worse, as we all know. But it's just one puncture right through the thigh.
Well, again, for a 4-year-old girl getting bit in the leg by a coyote, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it's huge.
So help me walk through this, Devin. What did she say she saw the coyote before, or did it surprise her?
It surprised her. She had no idea. She was focused on my grandma in the window, just happy, you know. She hasn't seen her. She goes to Florida every fall, so she hasn't seen her for the last 3-4 months. So she's just very excited to see everybody.
So, and when you saw the coyote, what was it doing?
You know how they kind of sit, but their butt's not on the ground? They're kind of just ready to pounce, I guess.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it was doing, just squatted there.
I don't mean to be goofy here, but was it growling or anything like that at all?
No, and this coyote looked very healthy. I've seen mangy coyotes. I've shot mangy coyotes. I mean, this coyote was healthy.
Yeah, let's set the stage here. You're a predator hunter. You're a dog hunter. You know what these things are. You know how they normally act, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've been around dozens of coyotes. It's nothing new.
So it didn't act sick.
Nope, not at all.
You did put one round into it. Did you guys ever find it?
We did not. I tracked it for about 5 miles on Christmas Day, and we never did catch up to it.
What is the process in something like this? Do you report it to the local police? Do you bring the DNR, the COs in, or how does it work?
So I called 911 after the hospital. After my mother talked to the hospital, they said, yes, definitely report it. So I called 911, non-emergent. They said that an officer would get in touch with me. So about a half hour later, an officer calls me, and I touch base with them, tell them what happened. He's like, okay, we will turn this over to the CO because it's a wild animal incident.
Okay.
And I said, okay. And he said the CO should be getting in touch with you. And that was the last I heard. This was Christmas Eve.
Oh, so there was no follow-up?
There was not until Monday when the sheriff called me again. And he was putting a press release out on what happened. And I told him, I said, I still have not heard from the DNR. This is kind of absurd, if you ask me. They should have been followed up like hours later. And they never touched base until after he reached out to them again on Monday.
And so what they made a report. Any person in Michigan can legally shoot a coyote if they're doing damage. So there was no concern about you being in trouble at all, thankfully, right?
Correct. Yeah. When I talked to the CO Monday afternoon, he said I did everything legal, which honestly at that point, it don't matter. You mess with my daughter, you're going to suffer the consequence.
I
right?
hear you. No, I get it. I hear you completely.
So, But yeah, he said everything was completely legal in that aspect.
This is, every once in a while you hear about a coyote that does something like this. But normally, I mean, you see a coyote in the woods, they see you and they run the other way. That would be my concern with this one, that it was aggressive enough that it attacked your daughter. That's the scary part, right?
Yeah, that's very scary. Like I said, I've been around dozens of coyotes. I've never had one act in a manner where it's coming at you. I mean, I've been feet from coyote, and they always turn and run.
Yeah.
They're always trying to get away. They're scared.
Did the folks in ER say that they're going through the rabies protocol because that the coyote was acting different, or just the fact that she got bit? They didn't care what the coyote was acting like. The fact she got bit was enough to get her the shots?
Yeah, so like you get bit by any animal, even like your pet dog. If you're not sure about the rabies, definitely go get the shot because you're dead if you do contract it. There is no cure.
Wow.
So with us not being able to find the coyote and bring it in to get tested and all this other stuff, she has to go through those. And I don't know if you know what the shot consists of, but
I do not.
They take a shot around your entire wound. So luckily it was just that one puncture because she got about 6 or 8 shots around that wound, and then you get the rabies vaccine.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
As an adult, I don't want that, let alone seeing a little girl have to go through that.
Yeah, it'll be something I'll always remember. Wow. I can tell you that.
Hang tight, Devin. I have some more questions for you. We're talking with Devin LaFond, who, unfortunately, he didn't see the attack, but he had to go through the whole thing with his little girl getting bitten by a coyote. You hear about these stories once in a while. Listen, Mother Nature is not like a Disney movie. Also, though, I don't think we need to be afraid to go walking through the woods. I know some people are afraid to go walk through the woods. There's bears out there. Well, you don't have to worry about them. There's coyotes out there. We normally don't have to worry about them. There's wolves out there. You normally don't have to worry about those either. More with Devin coming up after the break. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show on more than 30 stations across the great state of Michigan, including 95.3 FM WBCK in Battle Creek. You can also hear us in Carroll on 2 stations, WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in the Sioux on WKNW 1400 AM, by the way, obviously. We're talking right now with Devin LaFond. Devin is a guy who just happens to be a hardcore hunter, dog hunter, predator hunter. And his daughter, almost 4 years old, was bitten by a coyote in the front yard of his mother's house. Devin didn't see it, but he had to deal with the aftermath. Devin, again, I'm really glad she's okay, but I'm really sorry she had to go through all this.
Yeah, I don't wish this on anybody, obviously.
Yeah.
It's not something that's fun.
Do you, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes, and, you know, the fact that you went out after that coyote the next day, if it was me, I'm thinking there's a couple of reasons. Number one, I would want to get the animal so they could test it to see if it had rabies. And number two, I want to take revenge on that stupid thing.
Right? Yeah. The revenge is like big, but you want to make sure your daughter is going to be okay. That was the biggest thing.
Yep.
Just to make sure it don't have rabies or parvo or whatever disease it may have. That was the biggest thing for me.
And you won't know that, but she's been treated, so she'll be okay.
Yeah. She should be fine with the whole rabies thing now. Like I said yesterday, she got her last shot, and she's good to go now.
Well,
unfortunately, the last shot was on her birthday, so she is 4 now. But
happy birthday, kiddo. Well, when she gets older, she'll have a pretty cool story to tell.
Yeah. That next morning on Christmas, we went out, like I said, tracked it, couldn't find it, come back, and she was mad that we actually didn't get it. Like, she wanted a picture with this coyote.
I bet she did. This is interesting, Devin, because as you know, this is not the first time you and I have talked on the air about a similar situation. For folks who weren't with us the first time around, remind us what happened before.
So 2 years ago, I chased bear with hounds. We were chasing a bear up by Mount Arvon area, which is between Lance and Marquette. So we were chasing a bear. We had it going really good. We had 2 dogs. Both of them were mine on it, and they were going to a really big section that we typically don't like to go into. This would have been in July. I was about 800 yards on a road from where they were, and they were coming to us. The bear had a jump, and it was already ahead across the road. So we were going to catch these dogs on the road. So my first dog that was in the lead come through. We grabbed her, put her in the dog box. We're waiting on this other dog, and he was about 800 yards and popped up as treed. We have the GPSs and stuff where you can see exactly where your dogs are. So we're waiting, and he's not moving, popped up treed. We wait probably 20 minutes. There's nothing. So we start walking in, and I'm closing the gap, 100 yards, 50 yards, 20 yards, and it's thick. It's kind of like a swamp. We're looking around, can't hear him, and then I walk up, and there he is, laying there. You could see it was a pretty good-sized circle that they were fighting in, and we found wolf hair. So we knew right then and there what had happened. He didn't get in a fight with the bear or anything. A wolf or multiple wolves have come in and killed him.
Wow. So you've had some interaction with top-tier predators in this state.
Yeah. The wolf issue up here is horrendous. You can't go anywhere without finding a wolf track.
Is it still in pockets across the Yup, or is it pretty much pervasive across the entire Upper Peninsula now, the wolf problem?
They're everywhere. If you come up here, I could show you 100 different wolf tracks in a day.
Well, I have been up there last fall bear hunting, and every time I come up, if I don't see wolves, we've got them on the trail camera certainly, or I hear them. Yeah, they're everywhere now. Yeah,
like I said, you can't go anywhere in the woods now and not find some evidence of a wolf.
So do you guys, with your dogs, do you run coyotes as well as bears or just bears?
So I run coyote, bear, and bobcat.
That season's coming up, isn't it, bobcat?
Yeah, it started on January 1st.
Oh, it did? Okay. And that's a whole, I mean, obviously a bobcat is a different critter, but is that a whole different scenario running cats over a canine subject?
Yeah, canines usually run long distances. Not saying that cats won't, but cats will sit down in the swamp and just do circles. Sometimes they'll do a 50-yard circle, and you're just sitting there all day in a 50-yard circle.
How can that be? A 50-yard circle must be thick as can be.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we're talking nasty swamps, but
Yeah.
they just stay just ahead of the dogs and keep going around and around.
Well, Devin, I appreciate you sharing that story, first of all, and no more importantly, I'm so glad that your daughter is okay. I'm sorry she had to go through that. Do we learn anything from this at all? I mean, I don't know. Help me out here.
Yeah, we need to start killing more coyotes.
Okay. All right.
That's an easy solution,
That's
right?
a good way to... I appreciate that, Devin, and I can't argue there. Devin LaFond, thanks for your story. I'm glad your daughter Ava is okay. We'll take a break here from the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, we'll check in with Tom Campbell of Woods-n-Waternews. He will be at the big Ultimate Fishing Show in Novi this weekend at the Suburban Collection Showplace. That and more coming up in this opening hour of Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Tawas on WIOS 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. You can hear us in Traverse City on WTCM 580 AM, and you can hear us north of the bridge in Iron Mountain on WMIQ 1450 AM. You know, it's no secret that our great state of Michigan is kind of a hot spot, a hotbed, the center of the universe in some ways when it comes to our outdoor passions. Hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping. We have so many people here who are addicted to the outdoor lifestyle. We have so many companies here that are outdoor related. And maybe as a result, maybe a coincidence, we have some of the best outdoor writers and the best outdoor publications in the country. Right near the top of that list, Woods-n-Waternews. And Tom Campbell is one of the guys behind Woods-n-Waternews. And one of the reasons why it has been a staple in the homes of so many outdoor lovers here in the great state of Michigan for so many years. And he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Tom, welcome back. How have you been?
Just fine, Mike. Thank you. Thank you for those kind words. It's great to hear those things. Absolutely. Thanks, Mike. And you do a fantastic job, too, with what you do for the outdoors.
Well, you know,
lovers in the state.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, but Tom, I mean, it can't be argued. You guys have been doing this a long time. You've got it dialed in.
Long time. We do. And like you said earlier, we got terrific outdoor writers. We got people just providing such great information. I think it's a feel. It's not scientific, but it feels like this past deer season, we've had more trophy photos sent to us, more deer photos, I think, than any time in maybe the last 15, 20 years.
Wow.
It really seems to be neat. I think we're back to that boundary, and it seems to be really a family affair, too. It's almost like when you get a trophy photo, it's so many times it's from grandma or grandpa, and the photo contains pictures of brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles, and it's so cool. So that that's one great part about this business we get. But it really seems to be an influence and a change in that direction, which is fantastic. And it's so great to see that people want to see their photos back in print too. It always is nice.
Yeah, it's good for you guys. So I want to make sure I understand what you're saying here. Are you saying that you think you're seeing more pictures because the deer hunting is better, or there are just more people reconnecting to deer hunting?
reconnecting. I think the reconnection is there, and back to that idea that you can share your trophy photos and show people your success and take pride in that. And I think that's all back, and that is so great. And it's we love to see it, and we love to share that stuff with everybody out there. So
that's wonderful. What can we see in this January edition?
With the January issue, we are loaded. Of course, this weekend, Mike, everybody can come down to the Ultimate Fishing Show and see us live in our booth down at the Suburban Show Place, Collection Place down there. We'll be there all weekend long. And we have that January issue down there, and it's loaded with great. It's so nice to have ice fishing articles that can be used too.
That are actually relevant.
They're relevant this year, Mike, and it's so good to have. And of course, we got one of the best walleye ice fishermen out there. Mark Martin's got some great tips in there for walleye fishing through the ice this year. And of course, Mark Romanek's always in there with some great fishing ideas and topics, and looking forward to 2025 as we go through. And of course, we are still following some fantastic deer trophy photos and deer stories. And I know, as we are in the heart of working on our February issue too right now, that we have more for February. It's an amazing year. And another amazing part too, Mike, that I should just kind of happen is the December Michigan elk hunt had to be one of the best ever.
My gosh.
We are getting such great photos and stories from people. They just had, these hunts are better than some of those out west hunts
absolutely.
that you all
Absolutely.
hear about. It's incredible from youth to women, and it's fantastic. And it seems to be a real influx of elk from December hunt this year, and then we'll follow those up in February too as well.
I agree with you. I've had more pictures of big Michigan elk sent to me this year than ever before. And stand by, Tom, because I'm going to win the Pure Michigan hunt here. It's going to be drawn in a couple of weeks. I'm going to win the Pure Michigan hunt, and then next year you will see my picture of a big trophy bull as well.
I love it, Mike. We'd love to follow you and do the story for you, too. That would be fantastic. We're pulling for you.
I appreciate that.
Pulling for you.
And so, again, this weekend, you and the crew from Woods-n-Waternews are at the Ultimate Fishing Show in Novi all weekend long. So stop by the booth and tell Tom you heard him on the radio show.
Absolutely right, Mike. You got it. And we've always got, discounts on our subscriptions and giving away some package shoes, and just a love day. And a great place to show us your trophy photos and your success stories. And who knows, you could be in the next issue of Woods-n-Waternews.
Excellent, Tom. And once again, I have to ask your forgiveness. I always call it edition instead of issue. I'm thinking in broadcast terms. the January issue of Woods-n-Waternews.
Absolutely. It's on the shelf right now. You can find it at the newsstand. And also, you can go online to check out our subscriptions and get it delivered right to your home, and you'll never miss a
All right, Tom, appreciate that. And again, the website, woods-n-waternews.com, woods-n-waternews.com. We'll take a break here for the top of the hour. When we come back, turn our attention to something a little more serious. A proposed solar farm near Gaylord that's drawing so much negative attention. Justin Tomei of MUCC checks in, plus lots more coming up in Hour 2 of Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and thank you, Ken, for introducing the Outdoor Magazine radio show for so many years, even before that, the Outdoor Magazine television show. So glad to have you along with us this week, as Mother Nature is certainly been kind of a deep freeze, huh? Man, it's been cold. My outdoor walks have been pretty uncomfortable to the point where I finally gave up yesterday and just went inside on the treadmill. I don't want to do that, but that might be my course of action here for the next few days. If I was an ice fisherman, I would be very, very happy right now. This is the Outdoor Magazine radio show, heard on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And I do believe the best way to listen to this show, if you can, is on your local radio station, your local AM or FM affiliate radio station. If you can't, though, if you live in some part of our state not covered by the broadcast signal, and as I say some part of our state, there's only really one part of our state not covered by the broadcast signal. Or if your local station doesn't carry all 3 hours of the show, yep, it's a 3-hour show, then there's the podcast version is available as a backup. The podcast version has exactly the same content, but it's not made available for your consumption until after the broadcast stations have aired the show. You can hear the podcast on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. It's on my Facebook page, and it's on all of the other podcast outlets, from Amazon Music, Audible, LinkedIn, Apple Music, Google Play, iHeart, yada, 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 Spotify, yada, Deezer, Odyssey, even on YouTube. So check that out. I am a big fan of podcasting. I think it's a very exciting way to communicate and probably the fastest growing method of communication today. I do podcasts each month for some of my some of my advertising partners. And when we're done here in the studio today, I will record this month's Offshore Tackle podcast. Keep an ear out for that on their website, offshoretackle.com. That's offshoretackle.com. All right, as you look at the news that is in the outdoors this week, I can't think of anything that has drawn more attention or anything that more people have contacted me about than this proposal to put in a 420-acre or 400-acre solar farm near Gaylord. Now, some northern Michigan legislators are not happy about this. They've called for the firing of DNR Director Scott Bowen and some others in the department. Justin Tomei is with MUCC, and Justin is my go-to guy. I think he's got his handle on the pulse of things going on in Lansing, and he can look at it from a different perspective, maybe, and I appreciate that. And he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Justin, welcome back, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing great. Help us understand this, Justin. What's going on?
Well, I guess just a little bit of context. So, yeah, there's a 420-acre solar lease that was proposed on DNR-owned or DNR-managed lands, public-owned lands. And the context around that is, the department gets all sorts of applications for lease or purchase of state-owned lands all the time. A lot of them you never hear about because they never really get past the review process. This one did. So this would have taken 420 acres of state-owned, publicly owned land and turned it into a solar array. This particular piece of land has transmission lines running through it and is adjacent to some private land. The most recent development on it, though, is that the company that was looking at leasing the land has decided to back out and purchase or acquire, use other private lands in the area. So what that means going forward, I'm not sure. I don't know if the department's still going to do an RFP. So as of this moment, I don't really know what's going to happen yet. I'm going to talk to some DNR staff tomorrow about it and see if we can find out a little bit more. But as you stated in your intro there, it has raised the ire of more than just a few state legislators in the northern lower. It's been basically all I've worked on since Friday morning at 7:30. So,
you said RFD. What is that, Justin?
Request for proposal.
RFP. Okay.
Yeah. So they're just it's one of the legal loopholes that they kind of have to go through before they can do these leases. And that's the other thing, is that this really kind of blew up before the official public notice ever even went out. So it got big before the official process, at least the public facing official process, ever started.
So the company that wanted to do it looked at this whole situation and said, we don't want to be a part of this. They've pulled out. So it's not going to happen there now. But what does this mean?
I don't know. So the department could still put that land up for a lease, and some other solar company could do it. I don't know if they're going to go forward with it or not at this point. I haven't seen anything come from the department to say whether or not they're still going to put this up. So I don't know. That part's still a little bit unclear. What's not unclear, though, is that there are other lands that are going to be considered for these leases. It's not. This is just the first one, and so this is kind of an acute issue where maybe we should all take a step back now and look at it as a larger issue of, do we want to lease public land for the use of solar arrays, and if we do, what does that need to look like? And MUCC's perspective on it is we oppose this particular lease acutely, and it's less about opposing solar just at face value and more about the process that we use to get to these leasing decisions. And some people say, well, no public land, period. And that, that's fine. I would argue, I would push back a little bit and say that the department owns brownfields, and these brownfields, they're not really good for any other purpose. If the department wanted to put some of those up for lease and then do a tandem land acquisition to recoup that acreage, it would actually be a net positive for Michigan's hunters, trappers, and anglers, because they'd be taking land ill-suited for other uses and turning it into good hunting land, and maybe even getting some lease revenue, where that could go into the trust fund or something like that. So there needs to be more transparent and clear processes for how the department approaches these leases, meaning they need to more clearly define what constitutes marginal land. They need to more clearly define their selection criteria, and they need to just allow more public scrutiny on both of those things and the process. So it's a little more nuanced than that, but so acutely this one issue may end up being over, but it's not the end of the discussion.
Yeah, I got you. It certainly brings it to public attention. Is there a concern that staffers inside the DNR could not reach a consensus on this, and DNR Director Scott Bowen said, I, as the director, say, let's go ahead and go and do it?
I don't know what divisions said what, if wildlife was for it and forestry was against it, or vice versa, or what it was. I don't want to speculate too much beyond what we know, which is that there were not consensus among divisions, or even about the director's own thought process on it. I will say, though, the governor has made it abundantly clear that increased solar across the state of Michigan is a priority. And I suspect, not based on anything other than that fact, that probably had a large hand to doing it. I think all the agencies are supposed to look at ways that they can, reduce their emissions and increase their green energy. And so I don't think this is necessarily something that's unique to the department. It's just the department's in a unique situation being the largest landowner in the state.
Gotcha. Now, the legislators, several of them, had called for Director Bowen's head. They wanted him gone. Is the pressure off there, or do you think he's in trouble over this whole thing? What do you see, Justin?
I don't know. I don't think so. The governor could ask him to step down. He serves at her leisure. It's really up to her. He is a political appointee, subject to the advice and consent of the Senate. The window for any hearings have long passed. I will say for Director Bowen, in his defense, he's actually been a very good partner to the stakeholder groups over his tenure, and that he's been very open with us and very welcoming of our input and opinion. We happen to have a pretty big disagreement kind of fundamentally on how this played out. So I kind of hope that it's a one-off thing. I don't know. I will tell you that the politics of it are bad. It's going to make, as we go into the budget, in 3 weeks, the director's going to have to sit, 3-4 weeks, the director's going to have to sit down in front of some of these legislators in an appropriations hearing and explain why the DNR needs more money for things. And
that could be uncomfortable.
It's not going to go well. The politics of it certainly are not good for the department, but in terms of him losing his job, I don't think so. I know Representative Hoadley pretty well. We golfed at your golf outing.
Exactly.
together.
I know Mike from way back.
Yeah, so I don't think so. And like I said, the director has been a very good partner to stakeholders.
All right,
and,
Justin, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
real quick.
Real quick is just, from the House Republicans' perspective, the devil you know is often better than the devil you don't. Who would replace the director?
Gotcha. Justin, I appreciate your insight into this. Also for letting me know that the company that was going to do the project has bailed out. So that is news over the first hour. In the first hour I was talking about this, didn't know that. Justin Tomei of MUCC, MUCC.org. They didn't draw my name for the Super Bowl winner, though. I'm still kind of mad about that. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold. That's 1240 AM, 100.7 FM, WCBY. You can hear us in Flint on Sports Extra 1330 WTRX. My very first affiliate station. The show started at WMAX in Saginaw, and the first affiliate was WTRX in Flint. I'm going back, 35 years or so. And you can also hear us in Escanaba on WCHT 600 AM 93.5 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the company that makes this sound. The sound of my Rapid River knife locking back open. I just took it out of my pocket. Oh, it could use a good cleaning. It's getting a little dirty. But the edge is nice and sharp because I keep a sharp edge on it. If I did let the edge go dull, I could always take it back or ship it back to Rapid River, and they'd touch it up for me. They'd put a new edge on it. They would buff it down, make it look like new. Rapid River knives, handmade by craftsmen in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. If you go to the website, rapidriverknifeworks.com, or better yet, go to the showroom on US 2 just east of Rapid River, you will see what I mean. If you go to either place, the online store or the real store, make sure you use the promo code Avery10. Avery10 will get you 10% off on your entire order. And if you're buying a few knives, that can really add up. They say they hear the Avery10 promo code almost every day up there, and I appreciate that. Go to the website, rapidriverknifeworks.com. That's rapidriverknifeworks.com, or the store. Use the promo code Avery10, and you can get one of these beautiful, these things they're guaranteed for life. If you break them, and you're honest with Chris Durson at Rapid River about how you did it, he'll just give you a new knife. Now, don't tell him I said that, but he will. RapidRiverKnifeWorks.com. As I look at the calendar, this weekend is the Ultimate Fishing Show in Novi, Detroit Ultimate Fishing Show. In past years, I had always been gone this weekend to the ATA show, the Archery Trade Association show, for many, many years. That was the kickoff of the new year. It was either in Indy or Louisville or wherever, and it was a fun trip, and it was a big deal because all of the new products in the archery world were unveiled at the ATA show. A few years ago, I quit going to the show because it seemed like it lost all relevance to me. Because the companies now are unveiling these products well ahead of time. They're unveiling them online. I don't have to go to a show to see what's new. I just open up my phone, open up my laptop. But that's just my perspective. Dave Thomas is so intimately involved in the bow hunting business. He has Bowhunter Planet, bowhunterplanet.com, and many other online presences that deal with archery and bow hunting. And he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Hey, Dave, welcome back. How are you?
Hey, Mike, thanks for having me.
How was your season?
Terrible.
Why?
We lost our lease this year, so we've been struggling. We ended up breaking apart into pieces. Everybody went different ways, and I did try some state land up in Gladwin area. Tried that a little bit. It was really hard, a lot harder than I thought it'd be. I haven't done state land since I was a kid. So that was a lot harder than I anticipated.
Boy, these state land hunters who consistently take deer, I'm thinking of Josh Mapes at Overdrive Outdoors. These guys are impressive, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. Super hard to do. And, there's different ways to do things. Of course, the Onyx app was very helpful. I found out that using that app really helped me understand the ridge lines and height advantages and stuff. But at the end of the day, it was still super hard without a food source in the area.
Yeah. Are you going down to ATA?
I am not, but we do have friends there who are sharing videos and content with us to share online with everybody at Bowhunter Planet. Our friends at Mike's Archery are doing that as we speak, and other people. But I am kind of aware of what's going on. Most companies will call me and tell me what they're doing because they'll want to push something ahead of time, and so there are some things coming. It's not a ton. It's not like it's like you said in the intro here. Most launches already in the fall. So
yeah, you are in a unique position there because you are such a player in the archery business. The companies know you reach so many people. If they want to get the word out, they'll come to you, won't they?
Yeah, it happens a lot, actually. And that's a good thing. I mean, we're trying to be that center point where we can help teeter for the industry. And our goal has always will be to promote archery and the heritage of it. So it doesn't matter to us which bow manufacturer comes to us or asks for help or push. We're not sponsored by any bow manufacturer specifically. We just work with all of them trying to help promote their brands just so we can get more people trying archery. I mean, that's the most important part of it.
And do you care if it's traditional archery, a compound, or a crossbow?
No, from our perspective, all three are extremely welcome. But traditional's its own beast in its own. I mean, it is a very hard. It seems simple, I would say. Most people, when you see a bow, you're like, oh, it's so simple. But you got to remember there's no let off on those bows, so it's very complicated in the sense of you got a little bit to know what you're doing to understand how quick you need to fire and how you draw the bow. I mean, there's a lot of people who are legendary that do that type of stuff that we have met over the years. But yeah, I mean, it's its own thing, and obviously crossbow is completely different than a compound, but that's its own challenges as well. I mean, each one has their own little fun challenges, in my opinion.
I've asked you this question before, but what's the state of archery today? I mean, Michigan is where modern day bow hunting began with Fred Bear. Where are we today?
Yeah, I think we're seeing a very interesting thing in archery right now. I think we were on a downslide a little bit till we hit 2020. I think COVID kind of re-energized the archery industry because people wanted to look for ways to get outdoors. So they started buying a lot of bows online. Like a lot of people that normally don't bow hunt were buying Amazon bows. And so, like I said to you last time we did this show, that Bear Archery came to us and said we need to help address that by getting our bows a chance, which then they gave us the discount code that we talked about last time, which is still good today. BHP 2024 is the code for 20% off anything from the Bear Archery website and their affiliate brands. But that was a big deal because it helped try to pull those from Amazon onto them, to buy from an American company and try to push that side of it. And from that, what we're seeing now is just definitely an influx in that middle, lower price bow category. But we're also seeing some changes at the higher end. We're seeing a lot of companies today. Bowtech launched a magnesium riser. We've seen this already with Expedition. So we're starting to see this new material come in that's a little bit different between each company. So, for instance, Expedition has one called Magnite, which is a very specific blend of carbon and magnesium. And then Bowtech launched one today that's similar, but, I don't know the blend, of course, because it's, it's patented of some sort. So I don't know which is which, but the point is they're going past the carbon now into something a little bit different.
Expedition, that's a name I don't recognize.
Yeah, a younger company came out a few years back, but they also own some other brands, as in Element Outdoors and some other companies. So they kind of these miniature conglomerates come together in the archery industry that we're seeing. Elite owns CBE and Scott Archery. Darden is part of Black Eagle. So I mean, there's a lot of grouping of things that people might not realize sometimes that come together.
Do you think you talked about buying a bow online? Obviously, you can get a good price. Is that a good idea?
I think it is. I mean, personally, I think it's a benefit to the pro shop still because the odds are the people who buy the bow online are going to come into the shop to have work done on the bow. So I feel it doesn't really hurt either way to do it. However, it's most comfortable for the person buying it, the consumer. To me, the most important thing is getting them to buy the bow. Again, buying the bow online, I wouldn't necessarily say it's the best thing to buy like an Amazon bow, But if you take advantage of like this bear idea and do the bear thing, it makes more sense because you're going to find actual bear dealers in the area that you can go talk to and get a little more, feel for the bow. But again, this is lower cost options. If we're talking high end bows, I would definitely not buy a high end bow online, like a Matthews, a Hoyt. Those are like things where you're paying a lot of money, so you really need to have a feel for the bow and make sure it fits you perfectly.
That promo code at Bear was what, BHP 24?
Yeah, BHP 2024, and I'm sure it'll be 2025 as well. But they maintain both codes generally for the full year. So if you are looking for a bow, check that out. It's just a really good deal.
Well, and I know from our conversations before as well that if you're looking to get a good quality bow and save some money, because these high end bows are so expensive these days, buy a middle tier bow from a good company, maybe one that's a couple model years old. And don't hesitate to put it in a package, and you can get a pretty good deal still these days.
For sure, yeah. A couple interesting things happened last year. Last year we ran into this thing where Prime is a great example. Prime Archery out of Michigan here. They launched a new bow this year called the Form, which is a half carbon, half aluminum bow, which looks sweet. Like if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's really unique. But they also launched the Ronin, which is an $850 bow. That is basically a premium bow. It's got a lot of the premium aspects, including the same cams, limbs, pocket, a lot of the same stuff. It's just it takes away some small things, but you're getting a premium bow at $850 compared to like a $1,200, $1,400 bow. Just something to consider that if you are looking for a premium model, Prime is doing a really good job in that category right there.
Well, speaking of doing a really good job, you guys, Dave Thomas at Bowhunter Planet, are doing a great job with promoting archery, keeping it out there, maybe, hopefully, recruiting new people to the sport, and you're using social media as a way of doing that. That's very cool.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, it's been a long time coming. 2009 we started this thing, and I think the social media has been a blessing to us. It's a curse and a blessing sometimes, of course, but the blessing part is we've been able to reach an audience without things like the Outdoor Channel, without the Sportsman Channel, which are still great things, but you got to pay for those. And it was a lot of money to get on those networks. As you know, you've been through the movie part of that. So now with these free platforms that allow people to get out, and now we know today these platforms are so hot. It's unreal how hot they are with people using them, like TikTok and Meta, whatever, Facebook, whatever it is, they're using them really hot. Like your live feeds are awesome. Tons of people come in to watch your live feed live. And that's a great example of the power of these networks now,
Well, any way that we can reach people and promote the outdoors, I'm all in. I mean, I'm an old guy, but I'm still a geek at heart. And anything we can do to reach new people and maintain the old folks, I'm all about it. So. And I know you are as well, Dave, and I appreciate that. Not an old guy, but I know you're about promoting the sport, and I appreciate that.
Getting there.
Hey, it happens. Dave Thomas of Bowhunter Planet, always appreciate your time, buddy.
Thanks, Mike.
Hey, are we going to, real quick, how about a bear trip to White River? We're going to see one soon?
Just let me know when you're going. We got to figure out with Kevin. I'm down.
August 15th of this year. Dave Thomas of Bowhunter Planet, bowhunterplanet.com, bowhunterplanet.com, and all over the interweb. Yeah, I was talking about a bear hunt. I think I'm going to go back to White River this summer and hunt with Ron St. Louis of Northern Wilderness Bear Outfitters. Why not? We'll take a break. When we come back, Chad Fedewa of the DNR with a look back on this past deer season. How was it? You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on the Twister, 92.1 WTWS. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM, and you can hear us north of the bridge. Let's go to Marquette, WDMJ 1320 AM. Well, is your deer season over? Mine is. I live and hunt in a part of the state where the late doe season is still going on, but we haven't seen any daytime activity in a while. So my deer season is over. And I suspect for most of you it is. But how was this season? I mean, this is a very subjective question, right? If you shot a nice buck, you had a great season. If it was the only deer you saw all year, you had a nice season. And it varies from, geographically across our state. And you don't have to travel very far. It could be just a few miles away. I'm curious how the DNR is looking at this past season. Chad Fedewa is a DNR biologist and working with the deer herd, and he has agreed to join us and talk more about that. Hey, Chad, welcome back. How are you?
Good. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing great. Appreciate your time. Have you had time to look back at the deer season yet? And does mandatory reporting help that analysis?
Yeah, I have. And the mandatory harvest reporting does give us almost a real-time update on, how the season's going and provide us data, particularly right as, the seasons are wrapping up. We can, start diving into seeing what that data is showing and comparing to past seasons. So, very helpful compared to, the old system where we had our in-person check stations and our mail survey, which usually isn't completed, and the report's not typically out until springtime.
If I ask you overall, how was the season, can you even give me an answer, or do you have to break it down by region?
We could do it either way. Statewide, just over 600,000 people bought at least one deer license. That's up about 1.5% from last year. We have about 185,000 people that had shot at least one deer and reported a harvest, which is about the same as last year as well. Harvest numbers on the statewide level are up about 1.5%, but they do vary widely across regions, as you mentioned. So Upper Peninsula harvest overall was up 19% after a historically mild winter. But to put it into perspective a little bit, that's still down about 11% from 2022. But good to see a positive trend for the Upper Peninsula numbers. Northern Lower Peninsula was up a little bit as well. The Southern Lower Peninsula, the overall harvest was down about 3%. And when you start looking at the data a little more specifically, it looks like the southwest corner of the state, where we had a pretty widespread outbreak of epizootic hemorrhagic disease prior to the season, definitely impacted some harvest numbers in that part of the state, which I think brought that overall number down a bit. Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because I expected southern Michigan numbers to be up with most of the corn harvested. That's a positive effect, but you're saying EHD was such a big effect that you felt it. You actually saw it in your numbers this year. Yeah, and you're right. Leading up to the firearm season, most of the corn had been harvested in the southern lower, which usually, leads to an increase in harvest. And we did see an increase in harvest in a lot of counties. But those southwest counties, a couple of counties, St. Joseph County, Cass County, they were down almost 40%. No kidding. Wow. Harvest reporting. Some other counties like Kent County was down around 20%. They typically harvest a lot of deer in Kent County. So, when you see the number of deer that were reported and suspected that had died of EHD, and you add those to what were harvested, you get pretty close to the typical harvest in any given year. So a lot of those deer that did die from EHD likely would have been harvested by hunters, and that's where you see that drop in numbers. Now, the UP, I'm glad to hear that numbers were up this year, but overall the deer hunting is not what it was in years past. Will it ever get to those old-time levels again, Chad? Yeah, hard to say. Obviously, there's a lot of factors that come into play with the deer herd in the Upper Peninsula. You have, a multitude of predators. You have, increasing winter severity in particularly the northern part of the Upper Peninsula. We've seen more winters with severe weather, more, increased duration of snowfall over a foot deep in many parts of the UP over the last decade or more. And there's a habitat component too. Obviously, folks are pretty familiar with some of that stuff up in that area. So, hard to say, if they'll, get back to, the good old days of, everybody coming to the UP or everybody gathering at deer camps. And, it's good to see a positive trend.
I have one real quick question, and I have just a few seconds. The fact that 1.5% more people or more licenses, is that significant at all, or is that just a blip?
We've seen an increase the last couple of years, which is, overall we're still declining. We're well below, the 800,000 plus hunters we had 20 years ago.
All right, Chad, listen, I got to let you go. I appreciate your time. Thanks for the insight on this last year's harvest. Chad Fedewa, a biologist with the Michigan DNR. The website for the DNR is michigan.gov/DNR, michigan.gov/DNR. Chad, appreciate your time. We'll talk again. We'll take a break here. When we come back, we'll wrap up the hour with this week's Ask Avery question right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. You can hear us in Holland on WHTC 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Manistee on WTIQ 1490 AM, 95.3 FM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by the good folks at Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. The way this works, and you know this by now, is this is your chance to get involved in the content of the show. The best way to get these questions to me is to send me an email to Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's what Josh Sterling did. He sent me an email and said, "Hey, Mike, I know you're friends with the guy you call Mr. Angler Quest. I'm very interested in those boats, but not sure what's going on with the new models. Can you help me out? Maybe even bring him on the show to talk about it." Well, you know what, Josh? That's a great idea. And Mr. Angler Quest himself, Brad Dupuie, just happened to be available, and he is indeed with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Brad, welcome back. How are you?
Hey, we're doing great. Excited as ever, if not more than ever, to talk Angler Quest, Mike.
Well, tell me, what is going on? I mean, you are at this weekend, as folks are hearing the show, you are at the Ultimate Fishing Show in Novi, based out of the Freeway Sports booth, right?
Yeah. I'll be in the Freeway Sports Center booth, which is right over by Lake Altima, and we're going to have 3 of the latest and greatest Angler Quest boats in his booth. We're going to have an 8526 Pro Troll, an 8524 Family Fish, and an 818 Panfish. So I am super excited to show people the latest and greatest and talk boats more than ever.
So are you up and running now? Are you producing the new Angler Quest boats, QUEST?
We are. We have produced 19 boats so far, and we're continuing to build, and we have boats to build and customers looking for them. So we are officially up and running. So I couldn't be more happy, to be honest.
What the dealer, you and I have talked in the past, the dealer network is a big part of this picture. Do you have dealers out there now? Are you still growing?
No, absolutely. By the time we got everything built and had a little pseudo dealer show in late fall, things were a little late on that front. Typically, dealer shows are in the summer, late summer. So, yeah, we've got Freeway Sports. We've got Linwood Beach Marina. We have Dockside up north in Glenny, Decks and Docks down by Detroit, L&R Marine in Indiana. There's a lot of guys that are jumping on board, so it is great to see, and I'm excited.
How are the new boats different from the old models?
Well, that is, there's a lot of things incorporated that have been stagnant on the development front that really I took on this year and really went full force. The tubes, the chassis, a new rod holder system in the walls for the Pro Trolls to be able to put 5 9-footers in each side. The front walls are a little different with a kind of an angle up front with foam reinforcement to keep denting from occurring, from hitting a wave. Just there's a lot of things that are new. The rear fish station is incredible. It's accessed from the front, so you can get at the batteries and the battery switch from the front. Very durable, heavy-duty part along with some of the mainstays that have been part of the designs, with the center console design that people are used to, the captain seat for the center console design, and so on and so forth. So it's hard to capture all those in a quick statement, but there are a lot of things that we really incorporated in this new iteration, the next generation Angler Quest.
The new panfish models are pretty exciting too. That's a change of direction in some ways.
It is. That is a boat, in my opinion, is very good timing for that type of vessel in the environment that we're in. Things are tough, and, not everybody's necessarily in the market for a big super-duper triple. With all the inland lake opportunities in the Midwest, Michigan especially, and all the surrounding states, we have tons of inland lakes, and these boats are focused on the inland lakes with amenities that make that boat an Angler Quest, with the rod locker and the panfish, with just the layout, with the quick track extrusion groove to be able to incorporate track stack rod holders right into the rail quickly and efficiently with a lot of strength. There's a lot of little cool things that really make that boat what it is, and I think it's the right time for that boat, Mike.
Excellent. Folks can learn more. You've got the new website up and running, anglerquestpontoons.com, and Quest now is Quest, anglerquestpontoons.com. They can stop by the Freeway booth at the Ultimate Fishing Show in Novi this weekend, and you'll be at fishing shows throughout the winter, won't you?
I will be. I'll be down in Novi Thursday through Sunday, so I'd love to talk Angler Quest with people. Stop on by.
All right, make sure you keep Saturday, March 1st clear in your calendar for our big Trinity Monitor Wild Game Dinner. Got to have you there again, buddy.
I have that one on the calendar, and as it's looking, we are free and clear to do it, so I'm in.
All right, Mr. Angler Quest, Brad Dupuie, the website anglerquestpontoons.com, Quest, anglerquestpontoons.com. Thank you, Josh, for asking that question, and thank you, Security Credit Union, for making each week's Ask Avery segment possible. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back in hour number 3, Beagles and Bunnies with Corky Legue, and Wild Game Cooking with Chef Dixie Dave Minar in hour 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by J Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to our number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show, right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. Been doing this for a long time now. John, I think Charlie was telling me that this month is the 20th anniversary of doing this show out of WSGW. Oh. Yeah. And actually, I was doing it for several years, a good, 10 years at least, before that from other locations. So the show has been around for a long time. That's because I have been around for a long time. And thankfully, I'm still here. I have a passion for the outdoors. I have a passion for this outdoor lifestyle. I don't personally get involved in all aspects of it. I believe in a state like Michigan, it's almost impossible to take advantage of every type of outdoor activity that's out there. All the hunting, fishing, shooting, and trapping. We're blessed that we have so many different opportunities out there that we can pick and choose from, or try to be involved in them all. For me, I kind of pick and choose these days. But I love every part of it. For example, it has been so cold lately, and all of my ice fishing buddies have walked around now with smiles on their faces. Smiles that I haven't seen for the past few years that, yes, indeed, we've got an ice fishing season again. And maybe by the time you hear this radio show, an ice fishing season on Saginaw Bay that'll allow anglers to get offshore a ways. I don't personally do that these days, but I understand how popular it is. When you talk about popular wintertime activities, of course, ice fishing has to be one of them. What about this? And these days, predator hunting is a big thing. That wasn't a deal when I was growing up at all. But you know what was a big deal when I was growing up that is still today? Beagles and bunnies. Chasing rabbits with beagles. That was a big part of how I grew up. That's a big part of how many kids grew up in this state. Corky Legue knows this better than anybody I know. His family has been involved in raising beagles, training beagles, hunting with beagles for generations now. And Corky still has a passion for it today. That's why I enjoy our conversations on the subject. Corky, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Doing good, Mike. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great.
Good.
And what about you? Have you been out this year so far? Or are you waiting for more snow, or what's up?
This is just getting to the point where you really want to start going after them. You know, you get this cold weather, and it just kind of stirs that blood to get after them.
Is there any reason not to go earlier, or is it just this is the way you guys have done it, and this is the way you do it?
I think what it is, Mike, growing up, this was the time of year where it really kicked in. So I think that's what rattles that chain inside you and says, hey, get after it. But when we were doing a lot of the competition stuff, we ran beagles all year round, except for they have a quiet time, that you can't. But other than that, I mean, I just love to hear them hounds run.
Is part of it, too, that you can get access to property easier now than you could a few weeks ago during deer season?
100%.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, this time of year, people like to see the rabbits a little more because they're sitting in the house and, a bunny comes up to the bird feeder and stuff. But if you knock on those people's door during garden season and the flowers are growing, they are more than glad to give you permission to come and hunt later in the year. So that's always something to remember if you want to be a rabbit hunter. Knock on those doors in the summer.
How much land do you need to let the dogs run?
I'm glad you asked that question because it depends on the cover and the layout. Now, if you have a nice little thicket along a ditch bottom or creek bottom, and then it's surrounded by cornfields or cut fields, it doesn't really matter. It's going to hold some rabbits, and they're more than likely not going to go out across that open field too often. If they do, they'll break out a little bit and come back in. So, something, 5 acres, you'd be surprised how much one of them little honey holes, how many rabbits will be in there.
And you're probably not going to find one rabbit. If you find one, there's more?
As a rule. Now, depending on the type of dog you have, some dogs have just an extreme gift. They call it having good hunt, and they just naturally can find rabbits, and they're just gifted with it. And I had a guy come from across state one time with a friend of mine. I had told him about one dog I had, and he wanted to see it run. And it was in January, and the weather was pretty crappy that day that he came. It was hard going, and we hit this one spot, and we ended up running 13 different rabbits that day. And out of 13, the dog that I had, Hank, he struck and started 13 out of 13. He was just a gifted dog.
Hank is legendary, I think.
You know, I used to run with, different guys, and I had this little thing, because he would strike the rabbits. Most generally, he would be the one. And I would always look at him and say, "Thank you." So
and
it became a kind of a joke.
Of those 13 rabbits that day, or just rabbit hunting in general, you guys, and I think this is important to get out, you guys and gals don't necessarily shoot every rabbit that you run, do you?
No. And we always had a rule that when the dogs jumped the rabbit out of its setup, that you couldn't shoot it. You had to let them circle it. And there was different reasons for that, because we usually had a good handful of dogs down, so you didn't want to take a quick shot and maybe, hurt a dog. So this way here, it gave by time the run, one, we want to hear the run. And the second thing, as the rabbit's coming through, it's usually you got a clearer vision of where everything's at.
Now, will the rabbit circle on its own, or is that the dogs pushing it in a circle?
That rabbit's going to do that on its own. As any predator chases a rabbit, it's their defense to work their way back and cross their own tracks. And what's really neat is if you really get into watching hounds, work, you'll see these rabbits do tricks you cannot imagine. We used to have this one place where we would run our hounds, and it was a old sand pit. And there was a train track, and we could climb up on this old train car and sit up there and watch. And this rabbit come running down through, quite a ways ahead of the dogs. And as he went up, he stopped, turned around, and came back on his own track about, I would say, at least 50 yards, and then took these huge jumps off to the side, huge. And we're just grinning. And all the hounds hit the end of that line, stopped, and they're working it. And then one of the older, more experienced hounds worked its way back and then hit that and took it off, and everybody joins in.
What a fun thing to be able to watch from that perspective.
Oh, yeah. It's, if you spend your time running your hound, you're going to learn so much. And then you also learn what that dog's doing. So you're hearing it off in the distance, but because of what you've seen, you know what's happening out there. If you've got a faulty dog in the pack that's causing problems. I mean, you learn your hounds.
Do they have a different sound? Does each dog sound differently?
Absolutely. Yep. It's kind of like us, you hear my voice and you hear your voice, and you can tell that out there what's happening. And honestly, Mike, you can actually tell by listening to your own hound. My dad taught me this when I first started. We would have dogs that would do a little bit more cold trailing, and that means when they would smell, even before the rabbit was up, jumped out of its setup, it's more of a colder trail, and you could hear that hound's voice change once that rabbit was jumped.
It's a fascinating activity, a pastime, a passion, whatever you want to call it. We're talking with Corky Legue, who has spent a lifetime behind beagles, training beagles, running beagles, hunting with beagles, and just watching bunnies run in front of beagles. Got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, we'll talk more about this wintertime Michigan tradition with Corky, and see what else is on his mind as we move through this hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Manistee on WMLQ. That's 97.7 FM. You can hear us on the other side of the state. Port Huron, WPHM, 1380 AM. And let's jump back to the west side again. Let's go to Muskegon, WKBZ, 1090 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination. Just great people there. I say this every week, but I can't say enough good things about the Linwood Beach Marina. The location is perfect. It is on the west side of Saginaw Bay, near the town of Linwood. Right at the end of Linwood Road, turn right. They are right on the shore of Saginaw Bay. They have beautiful facilities. When there is no ice, they have a beautiful launch ramp, a docks, campground. When there is ice, you can access Saginaw Bay very easily from the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Great people, great facilities. And they can be a wealth of information. You can use them as a resource. If you check them out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com or give them a call, and the phone number is on the website. Now, I'm not going to say they're going to tell you if the ice is safe or not, but they will tell you what they see as they look out the window, whether there are other anglers out there, whether people have been going out, coming back, so you will get a good sense, especially if you're coming from across the state and you got a 2-hour drive in front of you and you don't want to make that drive if you're not going to be able to get out. Get in touch with the folks at Linwood Beach Marina, and they can help save you some time. The website, linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. We're talking about another wintertime tradition here in our great state of Michigan, and that is rabbit hunting. But rabbit hunting with beagles. Now, when I was a kid, I would go out and just stomp on brush piles and walk around and hope to put up a rabbit, and maybe sometimes I did, maybe sometimes I got a shot at it. But when I would go out with my buddies who had beagles, it changed the whole scenario. It was, number one, more effective, more productive. If we were actually looking to shoot rabbits, you can't beat hunting rabbits behind a beagle. But there was just something about it that was just so cool. It was such a unique experience. Corky Legue knows this experience firsthand. He's been doing it all of his life. Corky, what is it from your perspective about this process of rabbit hunting with beagles that has kept you so involved over the years?
I think it really goes back to being raised that way. It was my dad was a beagle guy. That was his love. I grew up on between Vassar and Millington over by Frankenmuth area. And my dad was a brick mason. And come winter, when the snow would fall, he would tell his boss, lay me off. And he would say, come on, Dale, he said, lay me off. He said, if not, I'll be working for somebody else in the spring. and he would grab his gun. This man lived rabbit hunting. And so, me and my brother, we were the same way. So we were raised with it. So it's in the blood, And so, we were going back to, you asked me that question about how big of a piece of property and so forth, the little pockets are great, but always remember this. This is one thing I learned. I had a 7-acre training pen that I would train young beagle pups in. And I knew there was about 10 rabbits in there, some cottontails, some tame rabbits, so forth. And I remember the day I went out there, and there was not a rabbit track to be found. And I walked through this, and I looked at every tree, everything possible, and it was like they were gone. I went in a house. I told my wife, I said, all the rabbits are gone. I don't know how that could be. And I even put 5 of my old dogs in there, and we could not find a rabbit. This was weird. The next day, it was like they were dropped back in, and they were everywhere. So the one thing people need to understand, if you hit a spot today, make sure to come back and check it on another day, because I don't know how that happened. And if I wouldn't have seen it with my own eyes, I might not have believed it. But, those spots, check them twice.
So what happened on that day? Did they hunker down? They were just hiding and not moving because of the weather, or what?
The weather was really cold, and but it was a fresh snow, and I've never seen it happen like that before. So there was an old car, that this farmer had in it where my pen was, and so I poked around underneath the car, looking in every crack and crevice. That's the only place I thought they could have been. I have no idea, Mike. Still to this day, if you believed in aliens, you might have thought they got picked up and brought back the next day.
Well, I've heard the term rabbit hole. Going down a rabbit hole. Maybe you just had a big rabbit hole and they all went down it for a day.
It could have been. I don't know. And to hit those spots more than once, really check them out, and find these guys who have a beagle if you don't have one, and if you get out there a few times, you might find yourself owning one.
Well, why beagles? I mean, can you hunt rabbits with other dogs, or is the beagle the perfect rabbit dog?
I think the beagle's just the perfect rabbit dog. They're just, for so many years, that's what they were bred for, and people need to understand. Do your homework of what kind of beagle you would like. Like, some guys want to hunt smaller pieces, and a slower beagle actually makes that work a little better, because a fast beagle's pushing them, and they may bust out of that little thicket. So if you're hunting small pieces, sometimes a slower dog can be more beneficial.
Do you have to train that beagle to hunt, or do they already know when they're born?
It's in their blood. They're going to do it. And an old guy down south told me one time, he said, beagles are hounds and hounds hunt. You got to teach them the things you do not want them to hunt. Like, you got to break them off deer. Now, some bloodlines of beagles have been really bred, generation after generation. They would take the less likely dogs to run off game. And so some of these strains of families of beagles are more likely to not bother off game.
So when you say you're training these pups, again, you're essentially teaching them what you don't want them to do. You don't run deer, you don't run coyotes, whatever, right?
Correct. And now, some of my best dogs would open on a partridge, a grouse. And when I was young, I loved that. And the weird thing was, growing up, we had this beagle named Tiger. It was my dad's dog. And Tiger was a great rabbit dog. He would retrieve, and he was medium speed at best. He was not a fast dog, and which was great for a kid. And but what was weird is when he would open on a grouse, a partridge, you could tell it was a totally different bark. And I was like, holy smokes. And so the first time, grouse went up, I wasn't prepared for it, the grouse, and, got away. Well, then I started understanding, and when he would bark like that, I would get ready, and sure enough, the one day I brought home quite a few.
When you say open, what does that mean?
When they start to bark. And so, like when they strike a track, that's called a dog opening, those first few barks.
And when you, like the coyote hunters or the bear hunters, a lot of times they'll wait until they see a track to let the dogs loose. Is that the way you do it in rabbit hunting, or do you just find rabbit-looking territory and let the dogs loose and let them go from there?
Yes, that's exactly what you do, because if it's a nice-looking area, looks like it'll hold rabbits, you may not see tracks. And that dog, and that's the funny thing again, some days you'll go and it looks like there's a herd of rabbits was turned loose, and, there's still only, 2, 3, 4 in there, but they ran big that night. They were just all over. And in other days, there won't be no tracks hardly, but you may still get those 3 or 4 rabbits out of there if you have a dog that knows how to find them.
Well, and cottontails will hang around in some pretty gnarly country. I would think the smaller beagle is a benefit there too, right? Because they can get in places maybe a bigger dog couldn't.
It does. I haven't seen too much of a problem with that, but one thing people should always know when wanting a beagle, some beagles will hunt with you more. They're, like bird dogs, they're just closer working with you. And then there's others that are hard hunters and they're just very independent, and you'll hear them strike on the other side of the woods. They
got their own personality, just like people, right?
100%. And a lot of it goes with breeding, though. So always know, just because it says it's a registered beagle, field champ from Field Champions, whatever, there is a very wide range from slower dogs to faster dogs and everything in the middle. And a breeder usually has a style of dog that they favor. So some of these dogs are slower, medium, slow to medium, and just real steady. And that has its place. But then there's some that are just, they're rockets and they can handle it. And wow, they're amazing too. So there's great in all aspects. Just know what you want.
Exactly. Well, and Corky, it's always enjoyable to talk with you about this, because this is a part of my childhood that I don't experience anymore. And shame on me, right? I got friends who have dogs. I should get out there, but to remind people of this part of our wintertime tradition is wonderful. And I always enjoy our conversations, Corky. I'll let you go. Have a great season. We'll talk again.
You take care, Mike.
Corky Legue, longtime, lifelong beagle and bunny guy, and one of the best out there. We'll take a break. When we come back, a few more thoughts, and then we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sandusky on WMIC 660 AM, 95.3 FM. You can hear us in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM. And you can hear us in Saginaw on WSGW AM and FM 790 AM, 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios of WSGW right now. I've told you this story before. I'm in here with Jonathan Dent, and he really, really wants me to move studios. Now, I really don't think I want to. So it's going to come down to a battle of wills. The old guy against the young guy. I don't know who's going to win yet, because I think he's got some juice behind him. I think he's got the powers that be here at the station behind him. Either way, I will continue to work out of WSGW, maybe just not in my beloved studio that I have come to get so used to. And John, I am a creature of habit. I get used to something, I have a hard time changing. Ask my wife, she'll tell you. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by my friends at Killer Food Plots. Look, I know you're not putting in food plots this time of year. In fact, you're probably not even hunting over your food plots anymore. But think about this. Think about how your deer season went. The highlights, the lowlights, what you could have done differently, how you might better attract deer to your property next year. Well, this year, I guess now, right? Killer Food Plots, Michigan-based, family-owned, is a company I think you should give a serious look to. Rich Krazan has really done a great job with this company, and I know he can do a great job for you. Check him out online at killerfoodplots.com. That's killerfoodplots.com. And as we move into the springtime season, the food plot planting season, we will be back in touch with Rich and have him here on the show once again. And I will be seeing Rich, I'm sure, at the different outdoor shows around the state. And the next time we have a Wednesday Night Live up at the Lumberjack Restaurant, he will be invited to join us there as well. Oh, so what's going on? It's been cold. Making ice. Great news for ice anglers. People, my friends who are ice fishermen are walking around with smiles on their faces I haven't seen in years now. What else is going on? Oh, here's the big news. When I started recording this show almost 3 hours ago now, I was talking about the plan to put in a solar farm on 400 acres of public land near Gaylord. As this show was developing, I learned at the last minute from Justin Tomei in the middle of the show of MUCC that that plan is probably temporarily on hold, at least on hold, maybe not going to happen at all. And the reason is the company that wanted to lease that property from the state to put in the solar farm said, look, we don't want anything to do with this now based on all the negative publicity, the negative exposure. You know, these energy companies who are doing solar have an image that they want to keep, but they want to come across positively in the public eye. The last thing they want is to get involved in a situation where it's surrounded in controversy, by controversy. And that's what happened with this whole thing in Gaylord. But that company's backed out. The question now is, though, what happens in the future? You know, the DNR is the biggest landowner in Michigan. I hadn't realized that. There is more public land, more land managed and owned by the DNR than any private individual in the state. So whatever they decide as far as policy and procedure and who they're going to work with is a big deal. The DNR currently leases a lot of land to oil and gas companies. They lease land to, put up such things as cell phone towers. So this is not uncharted territory. The DNR director is appointed by the governor. The governor has said that she wants to put an emphasis on solar. So I'm thinking that, and I don't know this for a fact, but I'm thinking, man, the director of the DNR, who some legislators wanted his head over this whole thing, and maybe still do, I don't know. He's in a situation where he's got his boss, the governor, saying, I want to push for solar. He makes a move to do that, and then he gets a lot of heat over it, and rightly so, I think. Interesting. I'm glad I don't have to deal or live or work in that world of Lansing politics. And I'm glad there are guys like Justin Tomei of MUCC and groups like MUCC out there to kind of keep an eye out for our best interests. So we can sit back and be fat, dumb, and happy and just go on with our hunting and fishing and not have to worry about it. Anyway, what else? I'm really looking forward to January 24th because that's when the 3 winners of the Pure Michigan Hunt will be drawn. I will be one of them. I hope you are one of the other 2. I did not win MUCC's Super Bowl drawing. I'm still kind of miffed about that, but congrats to Craig Coolidge. January 20th, tickets go on sale for our big Trinity Monitor Wild Game Dinner and Auction. That event is Saturday, March 1st at the Great Hall in Midland. I will have more details and a link where you can buy those tickets as we get closer. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, we're going to wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire and just all-around great guy, Dixie Dave Minar. That's coming up in the final segment of the final hour of this first show of 2025. Coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. Thank you so much for joining me this week here on the Outdoor Magazine Show. These shows almost always fly by. I mean, it's 3 hours, right? It's 3 hours of doing something that I love, so that's understandable. But this week in particular, don't you think, Jonathan? I mean, this show has really flown by very quickly, and it's, I think, a great way to kick off the first show of 2025. Now, you might say, well, it's you know, we're well into the month, but the reason we didn't record, well, last week's, let's see. Now that I think about it, this is actually the second show of 2025, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Okay. Disregard what I said. Never mind. I actually said it earlier in the show, too. The first show of 2025. Disregard. I'm an old man. I had a stroke. I'm using that as my excuse, right? Whenever I make an excuse now, I had a stroke. I don't know how long I can get away with that excuse. I think that's running pretty thin. What I was thinking of, the first one of 2025, was Wednesday Night Live, because we didn't do that during the holidays. So Wednesday Night Live is back and up and running as well. If you have been with me before, you know that I like to wrap up each week's show with just a great guy, wild game chef extraordinaire, Dixie Dave Minar. He's back with us once again. David, welcome back. When you and I first met years ago, you had the restaurant, and it was called the Old Dixie Inn. And it was a great place and very popular, and we love to join you there. Then you went through a little evolution of wanting to, evolve and stay current, and it became Oscar and Joey's with a little bit different personality, a little bit finer dining, you like to describe it as. And then things just, I don't know, the restaurant closed. Do you mind talking real briefly, Dave, about why that happened? What caused that to happen?
We closed the restaurant?
Yeah.
Well, we had no intention of ever selling out. And when they passed the marijuana laws, a marijuana company and offered us a price that we just couldn't refuse.
There you go.
So,
all right, now I understand. So you went into retirement. Which, how did that go for you? How is that going for you?
It was, after cooking every day, 6 days a week for 35 years that we were there, life became kind of boring, and I got the itch to get back into the kitchen. And a guy that I met a while back, Kevin King, he opened a restaurant there on the corner of 23 and 61 in downtown Standish, and asked me if I would like to bring some of the wild game and other specialty dishes that we did to his restaurant. And so we struck up a bargain, and one thing led to another. Just right around Christmas time, I started working 3 days a week. The restaurant's open 5 days. It's closed Sunday and Monday, and so I'm working Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and they've let me be so kind enough to let me do some of my food that we used to do in specials, and it seems to be going over real good. We did a salmon special last week and another steak dish, and we're going to be doing different specials, on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And we'll try to mix it all up and do stuff out of the cookbook. And we're going to get some wild game in. The Gordon's Food Service Company is going to be kind enough to let us order the wild game from them. And so we're going to start off kind of slowly and just kind of break into it. And it's just been great, not just sitting around watching TV in retirement.
So this is big news. Dixie Dave is back in the kitchen again, cooking for the public, and folks can come in and taste your cooking once again.
Right. I feel blessed that he hired an old man like me to do some food for him. It's been fun. I've had a great time, and Kevin is one heck of an entrepreneur. For food industry. So I feel blessed to be able to work with somebody that's going to give me that much free reign.
Excellent. So just so the details here, what's the name of the place and where is it?
It's called King's Dish. And dish is kind of short for Stand Dish.
So that's where it is, Stand Dish.
Right, Stand Dish in Michigan on 23 and 61, the corner right there on the southeast.
Can't
corner,
miss it. Can't miss it.
Northeast corner.
Yeah, and so you are in there Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, you say?
Correct. And like I said, we're going to start doing some wild game coming up pretty soon, and people can call. I got a phone number. The restaurant number is 989-718-3071, and you can call up to find out what food we're going to have that 3 days each week. We're going to try to have a bunch.
Well, congratulations, Dave. This is so exciting. Chef Dixie Dave Minar is back in the kitchen after a very short retirement. I didn't think you could do it. I'm so happy for you, Dave. King's Dish in Standish, 989-718-3071 for specials. Dave is in there Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. This is very cool. Congrats to you, my friend. That'll wrap up this week's show. Have a great week, everybody. And even though this isn't the first official show of 2025, it's still, right? It's still the new year. It's still early in the year. Talk to you next week, my friends.